The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 78 of The Daily Mother Swole. We have the Sassy family. Welcome. Today I'm talking about going after those toe cocks. Hey, what's going on Busker? Toe cocks, barefoot training. And I use that because bro science life, that's a classic old school when toe shoots first came out on YouTube. He did this really funny skit talking about exposing, no one wants to see your exposed toe cocks when you wear barefoot shoes. So I just love that term, toe cocks. Toe cocks. So Vibrams, actually I didn't bring any in this area. It doesn't really matter. You can look it up. Vibram 5-finger shoes, for example, is what I wear. I've gone through so many pairs of them. I prefer barefoot training. A lot of people just wear socks in the gym when they deadlift. And some people train outside. They literally go barefoot. Here's what I want to talk about barefoot training, and I did this a long time ago. I think this is like episode 2 of the Daily Swole. If you want to hunt through the archives and you really want to hack through, like, you know, Indiana Jones through like the jungle. Barefoot training is super important. You have a lot of muscles and a lot of receptors in the feet that don't get stimulated with shoes. When you're a child and you start, getting these little kids' baby Nikes, what happens is the foot actually forms to the shoe. You start elevating the heel, you start giving the foot a cushion, and that inhibits the foot from strengthening and developing as a small child. As you get older, you get used to wearing shoes, you get used to clopping around, you get used to a wider base of support, you lose proprioception, you lose proper gait, proper walking, proper actual posture and dynamic posture because of the elevated heel. It pretty much changes the whole body all the way up like the game of Jenga. So you pull one thing out, the other thing has to get pulled out. You start having to realign everything so it stays nice and balanced all the way up the stack there. I like barefoot training. I like being barefoot because I just feel more comfortable. I like not wearing a lot of clothes. Hey-oh, what the fuck gave that away, right? I like my tits are sassy because I have Sassy McTits and Sassy McMom, or Sassy Tits McMom, or Sassy McTits Senior, something on Periscope. So we all like to be free. This is like Periscope nudist. This is like fitness, fitness freedom. So I don't like to have a lot of encumbrances. I like to move the body the way it naturally is supposed to. I'm a big fan of quote unquote functional training. I'm a big fan of natural animalistic movement. I don't do all that crawling, all that stuff like I used to, because I was into that type of training for a while. In addition to my bodybuilding, I went through a couple of phases. It was just a phase. But I'm still a huge fan of yoga. I'm a huge fan and proponent of moving the body through space, moving the body through all ranges of motion, in terms of like dynamic movement, yoga poses, rotational, 3 planes of motion, and all that. With barefoot training, with just being barefoot, and it doesn't necessarily have to be training, because the thing is with barefoot training is you've had shoes on your entire life. So now all of a sudden taking them off and wearing Vibrams or wearing, any of these other barefoot brands can actually be dangerous because your bone structure and your ligament structure and your tendon structures are weaker, and a lot of times those arches are more flattened. The bones, they haven't had the stress because the shoe disperses, all these like cushioned and air gel inserts and Dr. Scholl's and Dr. Anti-Gains. If you have, that's a good question. Let's jump into that. If you have flat arches, it doesn't mean you have a weak foot. Flat arch does not mean a weak foot. It just means that, that could be more genetic. Some people just naturally genetically have flat arches. It doesn't mean you have a weak foot, but it can mean that you're not going to have the same type. I wouldn't necessarily go crazy with impact, especially if you've never done barefoot training with flat arches. You have to be very careful. You can just walk around more barefoot. But I do a lot of strengthening. I would do a lot of strengthening for, get technical here, the tibialis anterior. I would do a lot of strengthening for the tibialis anterior and the posterior. And what that does is help amplify and helps activate muscles that support the arch of the foot. The thing is with the flat arch is that when you get flat foot, you get a lot more what's called knee valgus. The knees go in. And then you have the Q angle, which is from the hip to the knee increases, and that just means the femur starts coming in at a steeper angle because the foot is flattening and the knees are caving inwards. And the problem with that is it puts more stress on the ligamental structures of the knee, and that's why women naturally are at a higher risk for ACL injuries, because women have wider hips for childbirth naturally. We're talking like, small differences, but women just naturally have wider hips. I mean, come on, Shakira, right? I'm not even gonna try to sing it. I did a little bit. A lot of coffee already. So if you have wider hips and a wider or larger Q angle, you have more risk for knee detriment. How it affect the squat? You mean with barefoot training or with flat arches? Because if you have knees going in, most people do have knees going in when they have tight hips or tight calves. The knees bend in and it causes a lot of pressure on the knee. So you have to fix that. What about weightlifting shoes? Okay, so let's get into this is just more general. I'm not going to get too much more technical because I can go really detailed on the barefoot training. But here's what I'm going to say before. Hold that thought with the weight. We'll go the opposite way of like what about weightlifting shoes? If you're going to try barefoot training, here's the thing. If you're going to try barefoot training, implement it slowly. Start walking around barefoot. Start doing yoga. I mean, honestly, yoga. I know I always say yoga, but if you want to do corrective exercise, if you want to fix imbalances, do yoga. If you want to calm your body, if you want less stress in your life, do yoga. If you want to, repair and still exercise and heal after an injury, do yoga. It just covers so many bases, but yoga is great because you're doing a lot of barefoot stability work. You're doing a lot of strengthening with the body while you're barefoot. So yoga is a great way to start with shoeless training, so to speak. I would not just take off your shoes and go running. I would not just get these shoes and go walk around hard surfaces all day because you'll be in a lot of pain. You can definitely get stress fractures and things like that. If you do barefoot training or if you wear barefoot shoes or very thin shoes and you want to get into that and you're on a hard surface, wear them for like maybe half an hour, take them off, put them on again later. Like really start to implement it slowly. And I can't stress that enough. Don't go running. Walk barefoot in grass is good for depression. Yeah, there's like grounding aspects, and decharging and, in terms of being barefoot on grass, like a lot of people say like it helps jet lag and it helps like decharge when you get off a plane and ground yourself. So yeah, I mean, being barefoot in grass is a great feeling. Go to the beach, something like that. So when you are implementing barefoot training, make sure that you are slowly implementing it, that you're slowly, bringing this into the forefront. You're not just like taking off your shoes and going nuts. Things like weightlifting shoes. Weightlifting shoes, if they're designed for weightlifting, can be very beneficial because you're pushing through a wider surface area. Chances are you're going to keep the stress more over the midfoot. You could drive more power, more strength. At the same time, you go really crazy with an elevated heel. You can probably get deeper. It'll take pressure off the calves. But weightlifting shoes are very stiff. They're very stiff and they're very wide base. And that's just for getting more surface contact. Because if you're barefoot and you have an arch, of course, you have like the toe pad and you have the heels touching. You don't have a lot in the middle. So with squats, you want to keep your weight over the midfoot. And it's a great way to make sure you're expressing, surface area throughout the entire foot and over the midfoot. So I can recommend easily weightlifting shoes can be great if they're designed for weightlifting shoes. You can go barefoot. It depends on what your goal is. It depends on how your body moves. If you're going barefoot, you better have good form. It's going to expose a lot of bad form. It's going to expose a lot of micro movements. My recommendation would be doing yoga, doing barefoot training, and then if you wanted to for heavy squats to go to weightlifting shoes and put weightlifting shoes on for those movements, then you can. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say, just do what feels good for you. Those are flat-soled shoes, sure, Chucks. I mean, I'm just going to say, do what works for you. I always recommend just being barefoot, strengthening the feet, work on your proprioception, because if you can, it's just something that you need to practice. It's something that is part of your body. It's muscles that are underused, and your foot is actually formed improperly when you're younger, starting to wear shoes while you're growing and developing. We should be barefoot all the time. I'm not saying you can't. Remember tools in the toolbox? If you have weightlifting shoes, those are for weightlifting sets. You don't wear weightlifting shoes to run. You don't wear weightlifting shoes to do curls. You wear them, you put them on when you do your squats. You put them on when you do your cleans. You put them on when you do your heavy weights. You don't even do them for lunges. You use them for your power lifts when you're standing in one spot. It's a platform. It's a wider base. It's more supportive. You could drive power, keep weight on the midfoot. That's why they're angled. So it's just designed for squatting. So I'm not against it. It's to each their own. I have a pair. I wear them sometimes. I feel like the guy from like the Birdcage where he's like flopping around in shoes. Because I'm so used to being barefoot. I put on big shoes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm wearing 5-inch heels. But I like them. I have Innovate ones. I mean, they're great. I like the weightlifting shoes. It's just I don't use them all the time, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to put them on, squat, and then take them off. It's just a little more time-consuming for me, and I like being barefoot. Okay? So that's that. And I've just been doing a lot more glutes lately because my left knee is just fucking jacked, I mean, it's just sore and swollen. I don't know what's going on. It's just inflamed, and I'm not really resting it, but I'm going to get a big butt. So whenever if my knee bothers me, I get tendonitis or something, just do a lot more RDLs, a lot more stretching, and a lot more glute work. So posterior chain gets wrecked. So I will stay for a few minutes after on Periscope and Busker. That's a great talk. I love talking about barefoot training. And one of the reasons why I brought that up is because the live workouts I've been doing on Periscope and posting. Oh, I like that. And I've been posting on YouTube the live Periscope workouts that I've been translating to YouTube. People see me with my barefoot shoes on. They're like, oh my God, why do you do that? Why do you do that? So that's why. I like it. Just make sure that you, like I said, if you try wearing those things or using that kind of footwear, make sure that you start wearing it slowly. You start practicing, you look up and you make sure you're, strengthening your arches, make sure you're strengthening your feet, and make sure that you're building up in general slowly to barefoot training so you don't get any stress fractures or injuries. Okay? I'll stay for a few minutes after. Thank you so much. Check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swolenormous. Remember, this podcast, this video can be caught on YouTube. It could also be listened to. You can get it in your freaking ear holes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. And I'm also live daily at 12 noon Eastern Time on Periscope and Busker. Make sure you follow me, especially on Periscope at Swolenormous. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram and all those different websites, okay? So Periscope, I do a lot of like random Periscopes. I'll go on live for workout videos, and I also do, sometimes Q&As, and I'll just throw it up there once in a while. But I'm always here, 12 noon each time, for the Daily Mother Swole. I shall see everyone tomorrow for episode 79. All right. Feels like we're on 69. My goodness. So if you have any topics, anything you want to hear about, you could always let me know. I usually kick around a bunch of different ideas and see what sticks or what the energy is for, just what I'm feeling hasn't gotten hit up in a while. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. As always, peace out. Enjoy your weekend.